Now we want you to share with us our latest and greatest dream. That's it, right here. Disneyland.
Hey friends, welcome back to day 2 of our A to Z guide to Disneyland. We're not going to waste any time today. Let's get into the parks.
Let's do it.
Go.
Now there's no way we can get through an A to Z guide at Disneyland without talking about this next one, and that's the Lightning Lane system.
Formerly known as Genie Plus, this is Disney's pay-to-ride service where you pay a charge per person per day to enter the Lightning Lane and skip the line at some of the most popular attractions. There's 2 options available. One is the Lightning Lane Multi-Pass, where you get access to multiple rides throughout the park, and the other is the Lightning Lane Single Pass, where you pay an additional per-person cost to skip the line at an individual attraction. Here in Disneyland, that's Rise of the Resistance. What's different from Disney World is that here you can prepay for your Lightning Lane Multi-Pass access with the purchase of your tickets, or you can simply purchase it the day of your visit after you've scanned into the park. Either way, you don't start making your selections until you are in the park, which is completely different than how it works in Florida. Prices start about $30 per person per day for multi-pass, but it can fluctuate depending on the day and the time of the year you're here. And as for single pass, you're probably looking at between $20 and $25 per person per ride. So it can add up pretty quickly if you're a larger family. But if you're here for a limited time on your trip, maybe it's worth budgeting a little more money to save some time in the parks. Now, we're not going into depth on how the system works in this video, but I just wanted to note that everyone in your party has to have the pass if you want to access the Lightning Lanes together. Also, everyone will need to be linked up in the app prior to your visit in order for one person to book everyone's Lightning Lanes as well.
Next up, the letter M. There's a lot that we could talk about for this letter, like the amazing line queue at Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, or the fact that you can meet Mickey and Minnie in their houses in Toontown. But instead, let's talk about these guys right here, the Magic Bands. Are they really worth it here? Let's find out.
The short answer? Probably not, but they are a fun convenience. You can connect it to the app and use it to scan into the parks and Lightning Lane entrances, and your PhotoPass photographer can use it to link the photos to your account. But here at Disneyland, you can't use them to open the doors to your Disney resorts or to charge in-park purchases to your room like you can at Disney World. So whether you use them here or not, it's just a personal preference really, and totally depends on what you want to get out of the system. We personally like the convenience of not having to get our phones out for Lightning Lanes, so we choose to use them here, but that's just our preference.
We're going back out of the gates for the next one because we're going to talk about our neighbors.
Of course, we're not actually talking about anyone, but just look at how close the neighboring park is. If you're a Disney World person and out here for the first time, you may be shocked to see just how close everything is together. It's literally steps to get to the other park, which makes park hopping a breeze. So if you only have one day out here, maybe buy that park hopper ticket and enjoy the best of both parks without the hassle of transportation concerns. And speaking of things that are close together, there's a ton of good neighbor hotels that are within walking distance as well. For this trip, we're staying down by the Anaheim Convention Center at the Dolphins Cove. It's technically walkable, but it's about a 20-minute hike, which quite honestly, at the end of a park day, is nothing that we want to do. But we're close to the Toy Story parking lot, so we've been walking over there and catching the shuttle to the parks every day. But having so many nearby hotels is a great way to save money because Disney only has 3 resorts here. And while they're nice, they are all deluxe level pricing, so not exactly a cheap option.
Now I know we talked about Galaxy's Edge in part 1 of this video, but we had to single this one out because if you're a Star Wars fan, this next spot is a must-do, at least one time. Come with us and we'll show you what we're talking about.
And here we are inside Oga's Cantina, where bounty hunters, smugglers, and weary travelers come to refresh and refuel, and jam out with DJ Rex. It is a bar known for fan favorites like the Fuzzy Tauntaun that makes your lips tingle, or the Jedi Mind Trick. But younglings are allowed to come inside as well, so your whole family can enjoy it together. They have a few snack items on the menu, as well as non-alcoholic concoctions if you're underage or if you just prefer not to imbibe. Advanced dining reservations are accepted and highly recommended, but you can often get on the walk-up list, which is what we did today. Now, a couple of things to note in here is that you may be seated with other parties or put at a stand-up table, so don't get your hopes set on sitting down and relaxing in here. I know this could make it less than enjoyable for some, so we just wanted to point that out. I also note that the experience is limited to 45 minutes inside to allow for others to enjoy. So check it out on your next trip and let us know what your favorite drink is down in the comments.
And for the letter P, we're heading to Neverland for another Disney fan favorite. Now, Peter Pan isn't exclusive to this park necessarily, so we went back and forth on whether we should include it or not. But if you've never been to Disneyland, this is a classic Disney ride that is extremely popular and gets long wait times. So we decided to include it as a ride tip. But if you aren't familiar with the ride, it's a slow-moving dark ride that has no height requirement, so it's great for the whole family. You'll board a pirate ship, sail over London on your way to Neverland. And for reasons that I will never truly understand, it is wildly popular, so usually gets very long lines. Now, don't get me wrong, it's cute and unique since you're flying above the scenes, but it isn't just one that I would personally wait 45 minutes to an hour to ride, which is typically where the wait times hover. But I do think if you've never been to Disneyland before, it should be on your must-do list. So we would recommend either rope dropping this one or hopping in line right before it closes. A lot of people rope drop this one though, so even with rope dropping, the wait time shoots up pretty quickly. But we've had a lot of luck with only waiting 10 to 15 minutes by hopping into line a little bit before the park closes. In fact, most of the Fantasyland rides have lower wait times towards the end of the park day, so it's a great time to knock out a lot of those rides that don't have Lightning Lane access.
Now for the letter Q, we're going to talk about the actual line queue, because if you've never been to Disney before, it could be a little bit confusing to know which lane to enter.
Now, most of your line queues, which use the multi-pass or single-pass system, will have two lanes, one for standby and the other for the lightning lane. The standby line is for everyone. This is the line that's used to determine the wait times in the app. The lightning lane, however, is for only those guests who have purchased the multi-pass or single-pass system to skip the lines at the attraction. It's also for people who have special access, like maybe the DAS pass, which they're allowed to use the lightning lane as well. Now, how the lightning lane queue works is that when you arrive at the attraction during your ride time window, you'll either use your phone or your magic band to scan into the lightning lane. And once you've scanned in, you're usually able to book your next lightning lane reservation right away. Some queues do have 2 check-in points, however, so just know that you might have to wait until you've cleared the second checkpoint before booking your next pass. But hopefully that clears up any confusion about what a lightning lane is and who can use it.
Now this next ride might leave you a little dizzy, but we're on the letter R, so we're not talking about the teacups, although we might feel like we just rode the teacups after we get off of here.
Now it's time for a crazy ride on a wild taxi named Lenny, cousin of Benny, on Roger Rabbit's Cartoon Spin. This is a slow dark ride with no height requirement that will send you spinning down the streets of Toontown after slipping through Toon Melting Dip. This ride is completely wacky, but it made our list because it's unique to the States. So unless you're heading to Tokyo anytime soon, Disneyland is the only place you can ride. Of course, it's based on the movie Who Framed Roger Rabbit, which I'm guessing only a certain generation of people are familiar with these days. I don't know. If you're familiar with this movie, let us know down in the comments. Honestly, it's not my favorite IP, but the ride is a good mix of Mr. Toad's Wild Ride and the teacups. I feel like the spinning aspect may take away from the storyline a little bit because it can be hard to focus at times, but it's definitely a crowd favorite. So that's why it made our list.
So do you ever feel like you're going through a giant storybook when you're in a park like this? Well, for this next attraction, you quite literally are.
You know, Joyce, every day with you is like living in a fairy tale.
And here we are at the Storybook Land Canal Boats. Now this is another slow ride with no height requirement, and it might not be super thrilling, but it made our list because it's an original ride to the park. Well, a version of it at least. For this ride, you'll board a boat and float along a canal where you'll be swallowed by Monstro the whale and enter a mini storybook land. It's cute, and we feel like it's something you should experience at least once, especially since Walt Disney himself was involved in planning the ride. On your journey, you'll see model scenes from classics like The Three Little Pigs, Snow White, Peter Pan. You'll also see more modern ones like Aladdin, The Little Mermaid, and Frozen. It can have a slow loading and unloading process because they have to keep the boats balanced, but the lines are usually shorter in the evenings. If the line is too long, you could also see some of the attraction as you ride the Casey Jr. circus train as well, so that's just a little tip.
Hey Joyce, what do you think of when I say the word tropical?
Ooh, Dole Whip. Should we go get a treat?
Let's do it.
Let's go.
So we're here now at the Tropical Hideaway, where you can get a classic treat that's almost as synonymous with Disneyland as the name Walt Disney himself, and that's the Dole Whip. You can get standard Dole Whip around the corner at the Tiki Juice Bar, and that's outside the entrance to the Enchanted Tiki Room. But if you want a few more exciting offerings like this Chili Mango Whip, you'll want to head around the corner to the Tropical Hideaway. This is where you can grab your favorite treat or light snack and relax your cares away overlooking the Jungle Cruise waterfront. And here's a secret detail you might not notice. If you've been to the Enchanted Tiki Room before, you might recall Jose asking,
"What happened to Rosita?"
well, now we know what happened to her. She's made a solo career for herself and she hangs out right here at the Tropical Hideaway.
You see, Pinky was his name. I said, "Oh, great and wise Pinky, why do you lift one leg up?" He looked right back at me and said, "Dear Rosita, I lift one leg up because if I lifted both up, I would fall down." Now isn't that just food for thought?
We're getting into some challenging letters now, but for the letter U, we're going to walk under the castle doorway to the other side. Because at Disneyland, we get to go inside the castle.
That's right, the Sleeping Beauty Castle isn't just a pass-through to Fantasyland, she has a story to tell. And I feel like a lot of people may miss this while they're here. I know we did on our last trip, but this is a walkthrough attraction that does have several stairs to climb, as if all the walking you do in the parks isn't enough, am I right? But if you're unable to climb the stairs, you can still watch a high-definition video of the walkthrough on the ground floor. And I think this is a nice option that Disney offers. You just need to see a cast member in the area for access. But to find the entrance of the walkthrough, you'll want to be facing the castle from the Fantasyland side, and then look to the right for this awning. Then you'll go on a spellbinding journey through the story of Princess Aurora, better known as Sleeping Beauty. You might even encounter my favorite villain of all time, Maleficent.
And for the letter V, we're going back in time on a nostalgic ride down Main Street. Of course, we're talking about vintage vehicles like the horse-drawn trolley, fire engine, or omnibus. These vehicles are available for anyone to ride, and they take you from Town Square down to the hub near Sleeping Beauty's castle and back again.
Now keep in mind that they're not out all day, but generally you'll be able to find them in the mornings to early afternoon. And what makes them special is just the opportunity to feel a bit of whimsy and nostalgia as you ride down a street inspired by Walt's childhood. So hop on one while you're here and relive a little bit of the past.
If there's one thing this next ride will teach us, it's that wild rides in the streets of London can lead you to hell? Isn't this supposed to be the happiest place on earth?
That's right, folks. For this one, you'll head inside Toad Hall, where you're gonna board a 1900 style motor car and set off on a wild ride with one J. Thaddeus Toad. This ride is an opening day attraction here at Disneyland, and it is completely wild, to say the least. After recklessly driving around the English countryside and wreaking all kinds of havoc, you'll be sent to court, where you'll be sentenced by a judge. In the trial, you'll come head on with an oncoming train and meet your fate. And in case it's not clear, your fate doesn't exactly have a happy ending. This ride used to be at Magic Kingdom in Florida, but was given an eviction notice by a lovable bear named Winnie the Pooh. So Disneyland is currently the only place you can go on this wild ride, and that's why it's on our list.
Okay, these letters are getting harder, but for the letter X, X marks the spot here with Fortune Red. He's going to tell us our fortune. Got the quarter? Let's see what happens.
This is one of those quirky things that makes Disneyland so much fun. There are two of them in the park, and most people probably walk by without giving them second glance. The first one is named Esmeralda, and you can find her at the Penny Arcade on Main Street. But back here by the Pieces of 8 shop in New Orleans Square is Fortune Red. And for a quarter, he will show you where the treasure is and give you your fortune. And if you don't have a quarter, download the Play Disney Parks app. Each day you can come here and receive a fortune and hear a piece of the fortune teller story. There are 3 10-part stories at each machine to collect, so stop by and check them out.
We have one fortune from Fortune Red.
Hey gang, are you guys ready to take a ride on a yellow submarine? Because we all live in a yellow submarine.
Nope. Gonna stop you right there. Right there. We're not riding a yellow submarine today, but we're gonna talk about a yellow submarine. But don't tell anyone. This is probably the most boring ride here in the park. That's just my opinion.
And we're talking about Finding Nemo Submarine Voyage. It's an attraction here in Tomorrowland with no height requirement, so anyone can ride. You'll board a yellow submarine operated by the Nautical Exploration and Marine Observation Institute, or NEMO for short. Sound familiar? But this ride opened in 1959 and was loosely based on the USS Nautilus and its voyage to the North Pole. It's gotten several rethemes over the years to what it is today, and even though I don't particularly love it, I do think you should ride it at least once because it is unique to Disneyland. A word of caution, however, if you have claustrophobia in any way, no matter how remote, then you'll want to avoid this because it is very snug inside here, folks. There is also a very tight staircase to get down inside the submarine. But just like Sleeping Beauty walkthrough, there is also an observation outpost where you can watch a high-definition live feed version of the voyage via subcam.
Well, we've made it to the end of the alphabet, and the last letter is Z, so it's time to go fight Evil Emperor Zurg.
And for our last ride, we're heading to Buzz Lightyear Astro Blasters. Now, a version of this ride exists in several Disney parks, so it's not necessarily unique to Disneyland. But hey, finding the letter Z was challenging, and this ride has some features that do make it unique when compared to Florida, at least. I've never been to the ones overseas, so that's our point of reference. But for this one, your Astro Blasters do come out of the holster, so you can hold them in your hand, which makes it easier to blast things. And also the targets here light up, so when you hit them, you know that you've scored some points. So for those reasons, we're calling it unique, and we want to know, have you ever been a galactic hero? Let us know in the comments.
Well, that wraps up our two-part video series on the A to Z Guide to Disneyland. We've had so much fun here. We've really enjoyed sharing a few things with you guys about what makes this park so special. And we'd love to hear from you in the comments. What did you like the most about Disneyland when you visited here? Or maybe you haven't visited yet. What are you most looking forward to on your trip? Let us know.
And make sure to like and subscribe, ring that notification bell, and we'll see you next time.
See you real soon. Bye.